widespread political protests across the country. A day after senior Congress leaders, including Rahul and Priyanka Gandhi, were detained by the Delhi police, Congress MPs turned up to Parliament today in black outfits. Now, even as the monsoon session of Parliament was adjourned for the third straight day, MPs from the Congress, the Samajwadi Party and Trinamool Congress turned up outside Parliament and shouted slogans against the centre, demanding for the resignation of Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan. In the south too, protests have intensified. The CPI office in Chennai saw student activists gather for the third straight day, while in Bengaluru, Congress workers were arrested for protesting in front of the local BJP office. In Hyderabad, police deployment has been beefed up outside the Telangana Lok Bhavan after the state Congress unit called for a protest march to the Lok Bhavan itself to condemn the arrest of Rahul Gandhi and intensify the party's stir against the centre. Here's more from the ground.
Right now we are reporting from the Lok Bhavan road in the Hyderabad city. We can clearly see here the entire road has been barricaded by the police, and the march has begun from the Indira Gandhi statue at the tank bund. So we can clearly see here women protesters. Already several protesters have been taken into the preventive custody from the spot, and even here we can clearly see women protesters have been taken into the preventive custody by the women police. And when it comes to the even other Congress leaders, they have barged into the barricades and they pushed the policemen and they've marched towards the governor's office. So we can clearly see here massive protest happening here at the Lok Bhavan. On the other hand, we can clearly see there at the we're just meters away from the Lok Bhavan. So even there, Congress leaders are being taken into the preventive custody. Actually, they were stopped near the barricades there, which we were, which we have shown from in the beginning. So they broke open the barricades. So they broke open the line and they barged into the barricades, and they managed to even run till this spot. Even we can clearly see here the Congress Karyakartas are running towards the Lok Bhavan. So they are not allowed actually. So I'll try to show from from the Lok Bhavan premises. So they are trying to run. Congress leaders managed to escape from the barricades, and they have been they've been stopped there by the police. Huge police deployment here in the Hyderabad city.
Meanwhile, multiple state units of the BJP in South India have begun a rather intriguing series of counter-protests, one might say. In Thiruvananthapuram, the BJP's Kerala unit took out protests against Rahul Gandhi's Dharna outside 7 Lok Kalyan Marg, the official residence of the Prime Minister. In Vijayawada as well as in Chennai, the Saffron Party's state units staged protests outside Congress party offices. Arpit brings us this report.
Protest that is now they're marching. BJP is marching towards the KPCC office in the state capital Thiruvananthapuram. In fact, State President Rajiv Chandrasekhar, other top senior leaders, including Thiruvananthapuram Mayor, they're all marching towards the KPCC office. They are saying that yesterday Congress deliberately tried to create problems outside Prime Minister's residence. We'll also try to get a word from Mayor. So what is the protest all about? What is the protest all about?
Throughout the country, the protest against International Congress is growing very well because the agitation led by Rahul Gandhi yesterday happened in Delhi, which is a threat to our national security, and the non-permitted area like the residence of the Honorable Prime Minister, with some anti-national elements, Rahul Gandhi and the Congress senior leaders came there and they tried to attack the house also. It is totally against the security of our country, and here today in Trivandrum, we are addressing our protest before the KPC, Kerala Pradesh Congress Committee office.
In Tamil Nadu, meanwhile, the ruling TVK has finally broken its silence over the ongoing student protests in New Delhi. In a statement on the party's ex-social media handle, the TVK said its aim was to fight for the complete abolition of the NEET examination itself. The party also took potshots at the opposition in the DMK in Tamil Nadu, saying that the DMK was not going to get away by making false promises to ban NEET in order to win votes. The TVK there also stating categorically that it will not make false promises like the DMK did insofar as promising to ban the examination is concerned. The TVK statement, though rather interestingly, came down heavily on the arrest of Rahul Gandhi and said that the party will extend complete support for the protests being held by opposition parties outside Parliament today. The statement, remember, also makes a rather interesting point. The party said that the only way to ensure the abolition of NEET, at least as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned, was to move education from the concurrent list into the state list so as to ensure that every state in India has autonomy over its own education policy. Moving on to some news from the automobile space next. The TVS Motor company is betting big on the future, even as global uncertainty clouds its outlook. Now, speaking at the company's AGM, Chairman Sudarshan Venu said that the Chennai and Bengaluru headquartered two-wheeler maker expects its international business to maintain growth momentum, with Africa, Latin America, Asia, and now even Europe emerging as key strategic markets. In fact, Sudarshan also indicated that TVS could evaluate a possible separation of its financial services arm, that's TVS Credit, at some stage with the aim of unlocking shareholder value. The company, remember, is also doubling down on electric mobility, premium motorcycles, and artificial intelligence after having invested over 1,250 crore rupees in research and development last year. Now, these comments come even as TVS Motor sold 3.7 lakh electric two-wheelers last year, up 33% year-on-year, in addition to expanding its network to over 1,000 EV dealerships and 5,000 public charging infrastructure points. Meanwhile, Bengaluru-based Merlin Hawk Aerospace has signed a strategic agreement with Boeing Defence India to provide in-country maintenance and life cycle support for advanced electro-optical and infrared systems used on Indian military platforms. The partnership is expected to strengthen India's defence sustainment ecosystem, cut turnaround times, and improve mission readiness while giving a boost to the indigenous aerospace maintenance capabilities under the Make in India initiative. Moving on, ride-hailing services may face disruptions across parts of South India, with drivers stepping up protests over fares and commissions. In Kerala, drivers attached to platforms like Ola, Uber and Rapido have begun an indefinite strike, while in Telangana, these ride-hailing gig workers have announced a day-long strike starting today, pressing for similar demands. Now, the issue stems from driver unions seeking a revision in base prices, a cap on aggregator commissions, and a more transparent pricing mechanism. And staying with Kerala, the state is grappling with a massive backlog of unpaid traffic fines. According to data from the Motor Vehicles Department, over 85.5 lakh e-challans remain pending, with motorists yet to pay penalties amounting to more than 631 crore rupees. Now, for context, that's 64% of all traffic fines that have been issued in the state in recent times. The fines relate to a range of traffic violations captured by AI-enabled cameras and enforcement systems. On to Telangana next. Details have emerged surrounding the state's first phase of the Indirama housing scheme. The government, we're told, will build 8,000 affordable homes across 16 urban constituencies in the first phase of the project itself. Now, under the scheme, each apartment under the Indirama scheme will be priced at around 11 lakh rupees, with the government of Telangana providing a 5 lakh rupees subsidy, with beneficiaries contributing the remaining 6 lakh rupees. Families with an annual income of up to 6 lakh rupees and those who've been in Hyderabad as residents for at least 10 years are eligible to apply for the scheme itself. Well, with that, we're slipping into a really short break, but South Central continues with more news and updates on the other side, so keep staying tuned to ET Now. Welcome back. You're watching South Central with me, Jude Sanat. This is your one-stop shop for everything making news in South India. And shifting focus to real estate next, pan-India residential sales for the first 6 months of 2026 have risen by 3%, but that's largely on account of tremendous growth in the Bengaluru and Chennai property markets. Now, for context, both Bengaluru and Chennai saw year-on-year residential sales up 16% and 27% respectively, as per the latest findings by JLL. In fact, both cities were the only two property markets across the country that saw double-digit year-on-year growth for the January-June period. As a matter of fact, every other property market in India, with the exception of NCR, actually either saw declining growth or flat growth, more or less, for the first 6 months of the year. Bengaluru also led the charge on the home launch front, accounting for a whopping 41% spike in new launches, even as the Chennai and Hyderabad markets recorded an identical 14% drop on the launches. Now, Hyderabad, meanwhile, was the only southern city that saw a drop in both launches as well as residential sales. So what's causing the south markets to keep firing on all cylinders? Is Hyderabad merely cooling off right now, or are we entering a period of tepidity in residential sales across this specific market? And more importantly, how will the ongoing uncertainty over planning permissions in Chennai affect launches and sales in this market? Joining us now to discuss all that and more is Siva Krishnan, Head of Residential Services at JLL. Siva, as always, good to have you with us right here on South Central. Let's start with the readings from South India, Siva. Bengaluru has once again emerged as India's largest residential market, while Chennai has recorded the fastest sales growth between 26 and 27%. What structural factors are driving this outperformance in South India? And do you see this momentum sustaining into the second half of 2026?
The South Indian markets contributes almost 50% of India's office absorption. That's close to about 25 million comes from Bangalore, 9 to 10 million comes from Chennai, 12 to 13 million comes from Hyderabad. So that is what is really fueling the residential market across South. And I'll give an interesting numbers. If you look at for the last 10 quarters in Bangalore, the quarter-on-quarter sales has been quite stable, hovering around close to about 18 to 20,000 units. It's a fantastic news. It shows a clear stability in the Bangalore market. That is the same case with respect to Hyderabad. Interestingly, what we're seeing in Chennai is out of the last 8 quarters, what we're seeing in the last 4 quarters is that the numbers have actually gone up by almost by 50 to 60%, from about 3 to 4,000 units in the last 4 quarters, from about 2,500 to 3,000 units in the former 4 quarters June. So it's quite interesting the fact that the real fueling is coming from the GCCs across all the 3 cities, and the affordability which is coming from the IT ideas adoption from a demand perspective is what is fueling the whole South Indian market. So it's been quite a stable market for both Chennai, Bangalore, and Hyderabad. And my take is that this momentum will continue. The only the flip side of I'm seeing is in terms of the developers need to be a little more careful in terms of the price points. The price points needs to be a little more stable in the coming days. So if that is sorted out, I think the market will continue to grow for at least for next 4 to 5 quarters.
Always that sensitive talking point, is it not, Siva, when it comes to any discussion on real estate, especially in the more conservative South Indian markets. But let's stay with Chennai for a bit. And your numbers indicate that sales here have surged 26%, but new launches are down 14%. Now, is this a deliberate supply discipline case that developers, are performing? Or is it more land availability, project approval, project readiness metrics that are beginning to constrain the Chennai market, so to speak?
So, Jude, it's a mix of all the above. In fact, the one really interesting point that we should look at from a Chennai market is that the price appreciation in Chennai market vis-a-vis all of the markets have been quite stable. The Chennai market has been growing at about 8 to 10% year-on-year basis vis-a-vis what is witnessed in a market like a Bangalore or Hyderabad. And that's one of the reasons you're seeing the surge in demand. So the Chennai has really grown in last 2 quarters. One reason is also stability in the price point, and also the way the price have really moved up in last 3 to 4 years' time. So the room for appreciation is much better, and the customers see from a supply perspective, there are issues, there are constraints with respect to approvals in certain corridors, and also with respect to the way the land price have really gone up in last 2 to 3 years in Chennai market, also has resulted in terms of supply being a little constrained. But I'm pretty sure saying that once the constraints in approvals and regulation goes off, the supply also will come back in the market.
While we're on Chennai itself, the fact is that we're seeing a recent controversy over projects facing greater scrutiny on account of the Pallikaranai Ramsar wetland issue. Even as it threw the spotlight on environmental clearances, Siva, could this scrutiny actually impact launches, reduce supply, or do you, for instance, have it expected to have any meaningful impact on housing sales or buyer sentiment going forward in this city as far as H2 is concerned?
So, Jude, the Ramsar issue is real. If you look at it from a south market of Chennai, which is OMR, Velacheri, Medavakkam, Pallikaranai, the entire belt of Perumbakkam, the entire area of Sholingalur, it's all affected because of Ramsar. So effective 2025, the CMDA, the regulator, have decided has not been allowed to give any approvals as per the NGT is concerned. This has definitely resulted in terms of the supply constraint in the market. I was talking about in the previous questions is, yes, there is a supply constraint. The supply constraint is basically emanating because of this Ramsar issue. And it's important to note that projects worth close to about 60 to 80,000 crores are on the anvil or are not being able to get approvals because of this issue. I'm confident saying that in the next 3 to 4 months' time, the issue will get resolved and the supply will come back to the market. And South market, especially the OMR, Medavakkam, Pallikaranai, that entire market is one of the best markets that we've seen from a demand perspective, which is constrained because of approval. So launches, the way the launches have gone down in Chennai is also because of the Ramsar effect. But despite the constraint in approvals, despite the supplying the entire south of Chennai, the velocity and sales volume has been quite good. Which also shows that the resilience in the other markets like west of Chennai, the Mount Punnamalai High Road, the Pallaram-Thuraipakkam Road, all is actually creating a lot of good sales volumes. Exactly the same thing which I spoke about. The office absorption is quite stable, like what is seen and witnessed in both Bengaluru and Hyderabad.
Right. So no impact over the next 6 months then if the issue is resolved over the next 3 to 4 months. That's the big takeaway from your observations, Siva. Very quickly, Bengaluru, 41% jump in new launches, and it's also seen the country's highest price appreciation as well in terms of residential market is concerned. Now, I have to ask you, are developers here at risk of oversupplying the market, given the fact that launches are happening, come hell or high water? And is this demand deep enough to absorb this pipeline over the next 12 to 18 months? It almost seems like you're over-leveraging the market here.
I don't think so, Jude. If you look at it, that's the reason I spoke about the last 10 quarters. If you look at the last 10 quarters, structurally, the market looks very, very, very robust. Every quarter, we are seeing close to about 18 to 20,000 units. And there has been no kind of slowdown as far as this number is concerned. Plus, the way the Bangalore market has been responding to the office absorption, last 4 to 5 quarters, we are seeing stable office absorption. So I don't think from a sales velocity will be a concern, but my only concern is that how the developers are going to take the price from here onwards. The price have really appreciated in the last 3 to 4 years, and they need to be careful in terms of how they're going to grade the pricing as we move forward. If the price gradation is natural and it's well within the market, I don't see any dearth of velocity going down.
Fact is, both Bengaluru and Chennai are firing on all cylinders, Siva, both on the sales front, prices as well, even as Bengaluru, of course, on that fast lane on the launches front too. I'm guessing if Chennai could iron out its regulatory issues, for all you know, like you said, this momentum could sustain. On that note, thank you so very much for joining us and breaking down some of these insights. Always a pleasure chatting up with you right here on South Central.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks a ton.
And before we end, it's one of Tamil Nadu's biggest film releases in recent times, and it's making news for more reasons than one. When Thalapathy Vijay's Jananayagam releases across cinemas tomorrow, not only will the film meet its long overdue date with the big screen, the film also makes Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Joseph Vijay only the second Chief Minister in India to star in a film release while holding office as Chief Minister. For context, former Tamil Nadu Chief Minister, the late M.G. Ramachandran, or MGR, was the first Chief Minister to do that. He had a film release while he held office. Remember, this was back in 1977 and 1978, when both years saw the release of Meenavan Anban and Maduraya Meeta Sundar Pandian, one after another. So while MGR was Chief Minister, And this happened, which means he held office, becoming the first man to do so and have a film starring him released. So it comes as no surprise then that Chennai is actually making preparations for this long-awaited release of Jananayagam. The film, remember, was due to release before elections this year, only to run into trouble with the censors. But 14 cuts later, and theatres in Chennai are all set to release the film starring Vijay starting tomorrow. So here's a glimpse of what it's like in theatres across town.
Tamil Nadu Chief Minister C. Joseph Vijay's last film, Jananayagam, is all set to release all over the world on the 23rd of July, which is tomorrow. And we can see a lot of preparations and celebrations that has already kick-started in the state of Tamil Nadu. In fact, this movie that was earlier supposed to release in the month of February went through a lot of issues with its censor certificate. And then even the pirated version of the film got leaked online. And now the film has crossed all its hurdles and is finally getting released tomorrow. In fact, what is very interesting is that this film was supposed to be one of his important campaign tools before the elections, but now it is even more the merrier for the fans as the movie is releasing after he's become the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, which is in fact a big win for not just him but also his fans. What is very interesting to note is that Tamil Nadu has 1,168 screens in total, and this film is going to be making a phenomenal mark as it's releasing in over 1,000 screens in Tamil Nadu, which is definitely a celebratory thing that is going to happen in Tamil Nadu tomorrow. All preparations, all celebrations ready as the theatres are already being filled with the fans who are thronging with excitement to celebrate his last film. We'll have to wait and see what kind of celebrations are going to happen tomorrow.
நிறைய பிரச்சனைகளை வந்து இந்த படம் ஃபேஸ் பண்ணிட்டு வந்திருக்கு. லாஸ்ட் ஒரு 6 monthsல வந்துட்டு எண்ணிலடங்கா ப்ராப்ளம்ஸ், லீகல் ப்ராப்ளம்ஸ் ஒரு சைடு, வேற மாதிரியான ப்ராப்ளம்ஸ் அதர் சைடு. ஸோ இந்த 6 months ஆஃப் ஜேர்னி பற்றி எங்களுக்கு சொல்ல முடியுமா? லைக் திங்ஸ் தட் யூ வென்ட் த்ரூ ஆஸ் அ க்ரூ.
இல்லை, இது டஃப் ஜேர்னி தான். பட் வந்து ஒரு ஹீரோவும் ப்ரொடியூசரும் ரொம்ப ஸ்ட்ராங்கான ஒரு ப்ரொடக்ஷனில் இருந்தாங்க. அதாவது அவங்க 2 பேரும் ரொம்ப யுனைட்டடாக இருந்தாங்க. ப்ரொடியூசர் வந்து கேவிஎன் சார் வந்து ஹீரோவுக்கு கால் பண்ணி என்ன நடந்தாலும் நான் அவங்களோட கடைசி வரைக்கும் இருப்பேன் அப்படின்னு ஒரு ப்ராமிஸ் பண்ணார். அது வந்து விஜய் சாருக்கு ஒரு ரிலீஃப் கொடுத்தது. விஜய் சார் என்ன சொன்னார், நீங்கள் வந்து படம் ரிலீஸ் சம்மந்தமாக என்ன ஹெல்ப் வேணாலும் கேளுங்க, அதை நான் உங்களுக்கு பண்ணுறேன் அப்படின்னு கேவிஎன் சார்கிட்ட சொன்னார். ஸோ அப்போ 2 பேருக்குள்ளேயும் ஒரு அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்டிங் இருந்ததுனால அது வந்து அந்த ஹீட் எங்களுக்கு பெருசாக வரல. இருந்தாலும் எங்களுக்கு எமோஷ்னல் ப்ராப்ளம்ஸ் இருந்தது. ஒரு படம் ஒர்க் பண்ணி அது ரிலீஸ் ஆகலை, அது ரிலேட்டடான ஃபினான்ஷியல் இஷ்யூஸு, அது ரிலேட்டடான ஒர்க் பண்ணவங்களுக்கு இருக்கிற ப்ராப்ளம்ஸ் இதெல்லாம் இருந்தது. பட் இவங்க அது மேஜரான ஹீட் அவங்க தாங்கிக்கிட்டதுனால எங்களுக்கு கம்மியாக தான் இருந்தது. அதை இந்த படத்தோட பெரிய வெற்றி இருந்துச்சுன்னா அது எல்லாத்தையும் காம்பன்சேட் பண்ணிட்டோம்னு நினைக்கிறேன்.
Well, I'm making sure I'm catching that tomorrow morning itself, and I'll stand by to get you all the lowdown in terms of how that film was like. But on that note, it's a wrap on the show today. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with more news and updates from South India. But for the moment, it's goodbye from us.